So, I read that this was a multi-year, 9-year process to write this book. Could you tell us a little bit about that process, about some of the creativity that went into bringing this to life?
So Rosie Frost and the Falcon Queen, it took me a long time to write. I've written books before, but not of this length. A novel is a different kind of discipline. So it was like a baptism of fire. The character always stayed the same. I felt like the world needs a new hero, someone ordinary. And I feel like the new superpower is vulnerability, and so this story fundamentally is about finding the courage you never knew you had. And for anyone, really, that was struggling to find their power as well. If you felt bullied or you felt like you couldn't find your voice, whether it was at school or at work or anywhere in life. And then the importance of, the people around you and those values and how to, face your challenges. And then I thought, well, actually, it was always those same characters and this school. And then I just thought, actually, let's lean into things that, I'm a very curious person. So let's lean into some history. Let's look at Anne Boleyn. So I don't know if you know much about Anne Boleyn, one of the wives of Henry VIII, and he had 6 wives, and she was number 2. She was really smart. She was gorgeous. But she got shamed. She got executed because she'd had a miscarriage, and it was a boy, and so the king was sort of done with her. This is true. It's so horrible what happened to her, and it was conspired against her, and she left a little girl, and this little girl, her name was Elizabeth, grew up to be Queen Elizabeth I, the greatest monarch of her time. And I thought, well, how about this? So two things. So what happens to that girl? She doesn't want to get married. Why would you if you knew your dad cut your mother's head off? Right? And then suddenly she gets all this pressure to produce an heir herself. So instead she creates a school in honor of her mother. She's not allowed to mention her but now she's queen. She's like, this is a school and it's in honor of my mother's values. And actually the heirs to the throne are going to be all the students and their ideas. This school she builds on Bloodstone Island, which is an island of conservation. Endangered animals. So instead of Jurassic Park, it's endangered animals, right? And this school is full of polymaths and brilliance. Amazing people went to this school. Amelia Earhart, a fantastic American pioneer. And there's a Falcon Queen gallery, and they celebrate these Falcon Queens like Amelia Earhart. Maya Angelou would have made it. But then there's a queen and, Queen Elizabeth I, all these different ones that are in this gallery, right? Cut to 500 years later, Rosie Frost, who's from the back end of London, like at the back end of, New York or somewhere like that. And she's sent there when her mother just dies just like that. And she's sent there, she doesn't know why. And suddenly she faces all these different challenges. One, she's being bullied, it's typical mean girl situation. There's a horrible weirdo deputy head, and she suddenly figures out that the island's animals are under threat because of him, but she can't prove it. And then she's thinking, the only way I'm going to solve this puzzle is to meet the head that's away. I have to enter the Falcon Queen games. It's a bit like Squid Games. Right? So quite vicious. And she enters it, and she's like, how am I going to get through this? Meanwhile, the ghost of Anne Boleyn, who's still got a head on now, gives her the rule book, the same rule book that Queen Elizabeth I used, 4 rules. She gives her the rule book and she uses it to stand up to the bullies, go through this big challenge of games, and she finds the courage she never knew she had. And she finds when you have challenges in life, you find out what you're made of. So this is a massive adventure, page turner, but they're sort of like vegetables and chocolate.
I think one of those characters who is very fascinating to me was Bina, and I thought it was interesting that she loves 90s music, and she's playing all of this 90s music, and I was waiting for her to, turn on some Spice Girl and expose that to Rosie. So I wanted to know, will you be incorporating any Spice Girls within Bina and her love of 90s music? What kind of music is she going to be listening to?
She talks about the divas,
She does.
She does, you know, like, so she's referring basically to Whitney and Mariah, and, you know, it's a beautiful era.
And I also think through Rosie, we see girl power, obviously, through her intellect, through her compassion. What does girl power mean to you now? And did you incorporate that into the book?
Okay, so I think girl power, you know, has existed from the beginning of time, 100%. If we look back 500 years ago, you know, in different eras, you know, women have had to find their strength. And girl power to me actually means equality. It means, you know, equality among, you know, sexes, genders, race, all, you know, whatever race, religion, cultures. I just, you know, that's what the perfect world it feels to me, you know, that everybody feels that sort of equal strength in each other. That's an ideal world. I think what it looks like in Rosie is that, you know, it's still that, I think there's a vulnerability to it. It's not, I think it's not an alpha girl, you know, like that alpha. I think actually a modern person is not alpha. We're all going, oh, I'm still figuring this out. That's the truth. It's unairbrushed. Strength is unairbrushed. It's sort of still figuring it out and making mistakes. And that, I thought that was really important.
Yeah, and I think it's obvious. We can see in the book that she does make some mistakes or things that she just doesn't know. But it's okay. Like, it's okay. We can get to the end and still save the day